us. I'm Marin, this is Michael. We're the Marciniacs. Here's a picture of our sweet family back at Christmas time. We got to go see the elephants in Fredericksburg. If you've never done that,
so fun.
get to go hug the elephants. I cried. It was amazing. It was really cool. Really, really cool. We've been married almost 12 years. Michael is a fireman. I am a not very good stay-at-home mom. I don't stay home like that very often. So I'm not going to stay at home. I have a lot of little part-time jobs. I coach. I'm on staff here at church. I'm the student camp director. I do a lot of little things like that. So this is our family. Our oldest is Keegan. He is going to turn 17 next week. We are a blended family. He actually moved out from our home about a year and a half ago, which is just a huge part of our story. If you're in our group, you'll hear probably more about that. So he lives in Springtown now with his dad. So we are a blended family. And then we made 3 little girls. Right here we have Scarlett, who is 9. She loves to dance, and she shows lambs. It's her second year to show lambs, so she's very involved in doing all of that. Then we have Mariah, who's 7. She plays soccer. She's our soccer player, because I think she just doesn't want to do what her sister's doing. I think that's the reason, is why we do that. And then we have Jordan, who's 4, who is a raccoon. She's our raccoon. So our kids, like our girls, are stereotypical first, middle, baby. Like the personality types that you hear about that, the TikTok videos about like first, middle, that's my children. And it's hilarious. So they are so much fun. We, I don't know, like to have a lot of fun. We like to travel, we like to camp with our kids. We do a lot of vacations, a lot of trips. Anything I'm missing? Great. So I'm gonna have y'all watch a quick video that's just about some basic parenting things before we get started.
There, I can see you. I gave him a bath last night. You need to go potty?
Do you need to go potty?
Do you have to tinkle?
If you don't need to go potty, then why are you holding your wee-wee?
You do not talk to your mother that way.
I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, honey, I see you. Yeah, I see you. Do not put your tongue on that.
All right, you've used up all your screen time.
Do not jump off that.
That is a nice chair.
Because I said so. What do you say?
Guess what?
Do you want to go to timeout?
Timeout right now.
Go to your room.
What did I just say to you?
What did I just say? You wait till Dad gets home.
You want me to kiss your boo-boo?
No, we don't spank.
How do you know you don't? You've never even tried. 2 more bites. The crust is the best part. We do not toot at the table.
Did you brush? I'm gonna feel your toothbrush.
Don't forget to flush.
Who didn't flush?
Do not touch anything.
Hey babe, is there any more CANDY?
I don't have my shoe.
We're leaving. Get your shoes.
Look at those big boy undies.
What are you planning on doing with that booger?
I can't understand you. Can you use your words?
Do not ask me why.
I don't know. Go ask your dad.
Go ask your mom.
You buckled? Why are you not buckled? I will turn this car around.
You will get there when we get there.
Why didn't you go when we stopped?
Quiet! Shh. So how do you guys do screen time? Get down!
We've been starting with an hour.
James William Douglas Daniel the First.
She never
She's just fussy.
She just hasn't had a nap today.
Car seat. Hey, if you're a parent, you've...
Anybody else feel that like in their soul? Yeah, like I say all of those things. All of that comes out right now. So, who in here would agree that parenting is hard? Yeah, like that's why you're here. 2 hands up. Yeah, that's right. We know it's hard. That's why you're here. If you thought parenting was easy, you wouldn't come to a parenting class, because on top of saying all that silly stuff, we have to like make them eat vegetables, and we have to help make sure they clean their room. They also have to learn how to share, and they have to learn how to be nice to each other and not hit each other in the face. And they need to make good grades, but we also have time to take time to go on dates, and you better make sure you give them the sex talk at the right age so they don't turn into crazy people. But keep them away from the bad kids at school, and give them a phone at the right time, and probably teach them about Jesus in the mix of all of that, and also teach them not to scream at restaurants. Or maybe we just need to stop screaming at our kids at restaurants. I don't know. Like, we have so much to do with our kids, and it's hard, and it feels like a lot. But I want to challenge that the reason parenting is hard and feels hard is not because of all of those things. All of those things are hard, but that's not why parenting is hard. The reason parenting is hard is because parenting is a spiritual battle the entire time you're parenting them. God gave us these kids. He gave us broken people, these tiny little broken people, to like teach about Jesus, and like we're supposed to model that, and we're supposed, on top of like also teach them how to eat vegetables and have the sex talk with them, and like teach them how to not hit each other in the face. And it's hard. And so that's what we came here to talk about. And we're not going to talk about changing your children. What we're going to be talking about tonight, and what we want to show you in maybe a perspective, just a different way to look at it, is that the best way to show your kids Jesus and to help them be less broken by the time they get older, right? Is to show your kids that your marriage is a priority. Like that has to be where it starts. Ephesians 5:31 says, "For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This mystery is great, but I am speaking with reference to Christ and the church." Like our marriage shows, we hear it a lot in church, our marriage shows the world Christ and the church, and that's great. But our world starts with our kids, like the people we're in front of, like on an intimate level every day. And so the greatest, what we want you to leave here with tonight, and throughout this class, is that the greatest overall influence that you're going to have in parenting is not going to come from your role as mom and dad. Not going to be because you are called mom and dad, but rather while you're in the role as a husband and a wife. Like that's the role God gave us first when He established our family, is husband and a wife. And you're just not going to be a better parent than you are a spouse.
Yeah, so God did establish us and establish that role and that title for us before He ever gave us the title as a mom and dad. And so if we look back at the beginning, at the foundation, when God started establishing creation in Genesis, He created man, and He created the rest of creation, created the beast, and then realized that, hey, we still have more to be able to create, and realized that man needed a helper. He knew that this man needed to be able to have experiences with someone, needed a companion, needed to be able to be intimate with someone. Just besides him, he wanted to be able to have another earthly relationship. God created a really good creation and had a really great relationship with Adam. That was the first and primary relationship. Primary relationship that we should all experience first, that should be our primary relationship, is our relationship with God. That should be our number one relationship. And then after that, we see that God created woman and gave Eve to Adam, pulled the rib out of Adam's side, and was able to form Eve, to have a suitable helper for Adam. And that was the establishment of the family. That's where we first see the first earthly relationship in the Bible, was right there with Adam and Eve, and the establishment of a family. He created a very good creation, he said, whenever Adam and Eve were together in the garden. And he said it was very good. And that was before kids were there. It was a very good garden before there was ever kids in it. It was perfect. Perfect before kids ever even got into the garden. And then there was conflict, of course, but we want to be able to look at why God created that primary relationship. And we have to be able to have that priority relationship as what we build off of that foundation of. So our first relationship should be with God, and then this earthly relationship here should be our priority relationship that we should have for our family. So how do you know that your relationship comes first? We ask this question to ourselves often, and we asked it before class to be able to figure out, hey, if we're going to ask ourselves, does our relationship come first? Is it a priority? We did that same thing. We asked ourselves that.
We said yes. We're
Of
doing
course.
great. Of course
We said
think,
yes.
Of course we think that, right? So, real quick, take 3 seconds, look at each other and say, is our marriage a priority in our family? Yes or no? Go. Okay, you're out of time. That's all we got. So, that was a quick yes or no question.
So, we don't have to keep diving into this. This could be fun. Maybe this is called a conflict right now. Maybe this is a great conversation right now. I don't know. But we want to be able to teach through what priority relationship looks like. And so when we began to talk about this and put work into figuring out, hey, this is the priority relationship, we asked our kids first. And so what did our kids say when we asked them this?
Yeah, so our kids said things like, y'all kiss and y'all go on dates. And I think Mariah said, "You carry mom like a baby," and I don't know what that means, but that's what she said. She saw us do something like that. I don't know. She sees us being close to each other.
That was a reason from a 7-year-old to figure out, hey, Dad loves Mom. It is a priority relationship. That's what she sees. So we didn't stop there with being able to validate it. We actually asked Keegan, our son who's not with us, and as we worked through that relationship, I sent him the same questions that I sent a whole bunch of other people. So we spread out this net, cast it wide to be able to figure out, hey, who are all these other friends that are close to us that see us interact with each other? And I asked them these questions. I asked them, how do you know that I love my spouse? What are some ways that I show my spouse is a priority? Do you witness us place a priority on our relationship? I even asked, hey, do you ever see us disagree, and how do we handle that? Or what are some blind spots in our relationship that we don't see? So I asked this question this past week to a bunch of people, and Marion asked this question to a bunch of people, and response from our son was, hey, you've said this for a long time, that your relationship with Mom is only second to God's relationship with yourself. He said, y'all's relationship was always number 2. That's what you always said. And so teaching that to him for so many years growing up, like that's still something that he stands on and holds and was able to visibly see. His other response was that, hey, we know that he said he believed that the whole world would crack in half if we weren't together. That was his 17-year-old response. So we didn't stop there, and we asked lots of other friends just to be able to see, hey, what would they say about our relationship? Like, what would they say about making a relationship a priority? And they say that I'll make sure that Marion's needs are met, and I come up and greet her when we're apart from each other, and I listen to her, and we practice parenting together, we share interests together, provide for her. Some people said that the way that I look at her and the way that I smile at her, and a whole list of things. What did you get?
Yeah, so some of the responses I got were, I speak kindly and respectfully about Michael, even when he's not around, and even if I'm talking about like conflict that we're having. I support the things that he enjoys, like he's allowed to go off and like not be home and go do things that he enjoys, and I can hold down the house while he's gone. We work as a team on things. We take vacations without our kids, and that's a priority for us. So we share these things not to like, look how great our marriage is, because we still have a lot to work on. It was really affirming, like for us to hear those things from our friends and people that were closest to us, that like the work that we know that we put into our marriage, like other people see it, like it's viewed that way to everybody around us, and it's really important that our kids even see it too. They even can, as a 7-year-old, can say, yeah, y'all love each other. Y'all's relationship comes first.
Yeah, so we just wanted to be able to see, hey, does the stuff that we talk about, is the work we're putting in fruitful? And so, just like Marion said, we have plenty of work to still be able to do. There was a list of other things of, hey, here's some blind spot that you may see. Hey, here's some things that you need to work on. Hey, here's some, when you disagree, hey, here's some things that may be able to help. And so, we still have things to be able to work on, but we're being able to see some fruits from the work that we're putting in. So, God is our primary relationship. This should be that priority relationship that we have here on earth. And then after that, like our kids need us to be able to have a really good relationship. And so our kids really depend on this relationship being healthy. When a husband and wife relationship isn't healthy, it's really hard for that mom or dad relationship to be healthy. For them to feel secure, for them to be able to get what they need out of the relationship that God originally designed for us. And then after that, like our friendships and those relationships should be subject to this being a priority relationship. So I think that I'm a much better friend to my friends whenever I'm a good husband to Marion. And I think Marion is a much better friend to her friends whenever we have a good relationship together. We're better friends to other people whenever this relationship is good. Like that's because that's the way that God designed it. So we can stand firm on that foundation of our relationship with Him and our relationship together, and let those other relationships be really good after that in that design. And so, does our marriage come first? The strength of the family relationships are dependent on the strength of the husband and wife relationship. And the quality of our parent-child relationship is dependent on the quality of our husband-wife relationship. I'm going to read that one more time. The strength of the family relationships are dependent upon the strength of the husband and wife relationships. And the quality of our parent-child relationship is dependent on the quality of the husband and wife relationship.
That's right. So we know that God gave us marriage. Like we've established that. But after he established marriage and he said it was good, he gave us another command. He said, go multiply. Like, I want you to have kids. And y'all did it. Like, literally. You did it. You had kids, right? That's how it works. He wants us to multiply, and that's why you're here. You've multiplied, you're really good at math, and now you have these kids that you have to raise. And there are some basic needs that our kids do need to have. Like, we have these little people that need us to take care of them. And some of these basic needs are going to be that the child needs to know that he is loved by mom and dad. Every child needs to know where they fit into mom and dad's world. And a child has a need to know that mom and dad love each other. But what the enemy wants to do is he wants to take those where, like, hey, where do I fit in mom and dad's world? And then mom and dad take that too far, and we can become very child-centered, which is a huge threat to our marriage. There's a lot of threats outside of our marriage, like in society and with our peers. But one, like the biggest threat lives in our house and like needs to eat every 3 hours, right? And we live in a society that, like, our culture has changed over history to become very child-centered. Like, it's very much a part of society to give our kids, more than we had, and to make sure they, I don't know, like, we have to give up everything so that they can play sports, and we have to give up everything so they can eat organic chicken, and we have to, Christmas needs to be bigger and better every year because their friends are getting bigger and better Christmases, and what if my kids don't get the phone, but all their kids get, right? So we can become very child-centered, and our children can, no longer become welcome members of our family. They become the center of our family. And this can especially happen if there's conflict in your marriage, right? Like, I'm not getting the attention and love I need from my spouse. My kid will give it to me. My kid will give me lots of love and attention, and so I'm just going to turn all my focus and attention on them. Now, of course, our kids need our love and attention. They need to be fed, and they need to be taken care of. And when they're little, they are physically very demanding, and when they're big, they're emotionally very demanding, and all that is part of it. But with child-centered parenting, it really can damage our children. Like, it hurts our marriage, but it also can really damage our children. One of those is that obviously it reduces the biblical significance of the husband-wife relationship. The kid looks at your marriage and goes, "They don't even like each other. Like, I should get what I want. Y'all, like, I want your attention. Give it to me. You don't need to give it to that other person." It can also allow our kids to have too many freedoms. And so when we give our kids whatever they want, and we give them all of our time and attention and money, they become the one that's in charge. And when they're in charge, when I say kids, I don't mean little kids, like even your teenagers, when they have too many freedoms, they are just not emotionally mature enough to handle that much power. They're not designed, like their brains aren't designed to handle that much power. And so when we give them that much freedom, it just turns into a lot of power struggles and discipline issues you might have in your home. Another thing it does is, even though we are the ones that are giving our kids everything, time, attention, money, it makes them feel like, I don't need you, right? We're the ones that give them everything, and then they say, I don't need you. It's kind of a backwards way to look at it, but it just creates this me-ism attitude. Like, I deserve this, I am entitled to this, you need to give me what I want. And what we want to establish in our family is a we-ism attitude. Like, we should be interdependent and rely on each other and support each other. And ultimately, it really just becomes idolatry, right? We're taking, our kids become these little golden cows that walk around our house, and we worship them, and we give them all our time and attention, and we take something that God created, like marriage first, kids second, and we twist it, and then we wonder why there's problems in our home when we're too child-centered.
Yeah, and so I think back to the very first, Mary talked about, like, hey, this is a spiritual battle that we walk through, and our marriage is wanting to be separated and torn apart by any way that it can by the enemy, and he wants to use anything that he can to be able to destroy this relationship so that he can disrupt all the rest of the stuff that this relationship touches. And so in Matthew 19:4, this is red letters. This is what Jesus is saying. He said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like," no, I'm in the wrong chapter. Hold on a second. There we go. Talking about Matthew 19. Still red letters. This is what it says. "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female," he said. "And for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united with his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no one separate." Like that's God's word is saying, let no one or anything else separate what he had put together. When he put you together, he intended on you to stay together and to be joined together. And let nothing else be able to separate it. And so we want that to be the primary and priority relationship, which all the rest of our marriage and our family should be built off of. And so those are some things that like we're going to continue to hit on throughout the rest of this class and continue to be able to talk about. But why should this be the priority relationship? Besides, hey, God saying, hey, this is the way that it should be. Or the church saying, hey, this is the way it should be. Maybe you have to ask yourself the question of, hey, why should my marriage be the priority relationship? So for us, there's going to be a day where it's just going to be this relationship again in our home. And there's not going to be any more kids in our home. And one day, I want this relationship to still be really good and really healthy. And not just for now, but I want it to be good for my future hopes and dreams of what I want my family to be. And future hopes and dreams of what I want my family to be is, whenever it's just me and her together again, is that my kids will have a choice whether they want to come back and enjoy this relationship again or not. So my why, I think our why as a family, our why we want to set this as a priority relationship, is that one day I would hope that my kids would choose to be able to come back and engage with this relationship. And I would hope that they would choose to want to engage with their sibling relationships. Like we want to build this whole family on the basis of God being the foundation, this being that priority relationship, because hey, one day I really want to have a family who wants to spend their time and enjoy coming back home again and spending time together again.
So we've gone over a lot of whys, a lot of why we should do this, why this should be first. Now we're just going to go into some really practical hows. How do we do this? And a lot of this you probably already know, you've probably already heard it, but it's good to hear it again. It's good to be reminded like, hey, this is probably, if we looked at our calendar, is there really any time for us in our calendar? And so one of the first things, really easy, is date regularly. A date does not mean you have to get a babysitter. It does not mean you have to go out and spend a bunch of money. A date can just be time set aside that you and your spouse just get rid of your kids, even in your own home. Like they go watch a movie for a little bit while you go do like, hey, mom and dad are like, we have a hot tub. So we'll tell our kids, hey, we're gonna go have a hot tub date. Y'all go watch TV while we go do this, and they're not allowed to come bother us unless something bad happens. Right? But that's like our hot tub date. Or hey, when y'all go to bed, we're opening the ice cream and we're gonna eat ice cream together without you. And they're like, why? What about me? I'm like, I love him. I love him and I want to spend time with him, and so I get ice cream and you don't. Go to bed, good night. Right? And they hate it. They love it. They love it. They love to hear that. So dates don't have to be this big thing that you do. You can, you should. Get a babysitter, go out and do that kind of stuff. But just practice regular dating with your spouse in front of your kids.
Yeah, and the reason that we do that is, and communicate it in that way, is, hey, there's a sense that, hey, I want to be part of that, but they know that this is the priority relationship, and this is a good thing. And something they can't even describe or probably even be able to understand or feel is that, hey, that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. That's something that is good. And so we talk about that whenever we are able to go on other trips and stuff too, is, hey, we love each other so much that we're leaving you at home and going off on our own to go do something together. And so we do that often. And over the years of being able to train and do that, like they're excited for us to be able to go and spend time because they know that's a good thing. It's healthy for them to be able to see us being able to go and do those things.
Yep. Another thing that's really easy, and I know this is like cheesy church stuff, but guys, it's so good, is speaking each other's love languages. You've probably heard that in church. If you've never heard what a love language is, the quiz is on your paper that you have in your notes. If you haven't taken that quiz in about a year, I would go take it again. Mine changes every year.
It's incredible.
It's so fun.
So I
have so much fun.
I'm gonna come out and talk. I'm gonna get honest. Okay. So we take the love language quiz or test every year or so about this time in class because it really, really, really helps me understand how to best love my wife. And so here's my theory. I shared it with somebody else on staff there, and hey, I think that could be real. And so here's my theory: is that we have these 5 different love languages: acts of service, gift giving, words of affirmation, what else? Quality time, and physical touch. That's right. And so there's these 5 love languages that I think every single one of us need and desire at different times and different levels. But the incredible thing about what my theory is that as Marin has a high love language, and I'm a high achiever, and so man, if there's something to be able to go attack and try to take down, I want to go do that. So if her physical love language is quality time, hey, I know that I can give quality time, and it's going to show her so much love. What happens is I do really good at quality time, and then fall off on some of these other ones, and so the next year something else has risen itself up to the top because I've been lacking in giving her this other love language. Like each one of us need a certain level of each one of these love languages. And so whenever I'm nailing a few of these, there are typically 1 or 2 that have fallen off and I haven't been very good at. And so when y'all take this love language test, whenever I take the love language test today and found out, hey, one of my love languages has changed. Usually I have 2 that are super high all the time, off the charts, and the other ones are way low. So my 2 top ones are typically physical touch and words of affirmation. Those are my 2 top.
My lowest 2, always.
So there we go. Complete opposites. It's great. That's how God put us together. It's incredible. And so what has happened over this past year, and us talking about that, and Marin really seeing that and realizing that, like those love languages have been met more, and there's another one that has bubbled up to the top for the first time in a decade that is now closer, that is on top of the love languages because, hey, she's been really meeting these other needs and loving me really well, and those cups are so full in those other areas that, hey, there's been other areas that she just hasn't been because she's been investing into these other things. And so I'll challenge you that whenever you take this love language quiz this next week, and you figure out, hey, this is my love language, and you figure out your spouses, and y'all share what these love languages are, that this is a great way to be able to help show love in your marriage, and to put the other person above your own interests, and be able to see what their love language is, to be able to really, I think it's going to be something that could really be able to help your marriage and be able to help you out.
Yep, and it's a really good tool to use with your kids to show them how to speak somebody else's love language. So if his is words of affirmation, I can say, hey kids, Dad's on his way home from this thing, he's been on a trip. Let's make signs that tell Dad how awesome he is, right? That's not my natural inclination. Like I normally wouldn't do that, right? Because words of affirmation is not high for me. But I can use that to show Michael we love him. And they can use it to show Dad that they love him. Or I'm gone for a couple days and acts of service is usually pretty high for me. So he's really good at, hey girls, we're gonna clean the house before Mom gets home. Because that's what she doesn't want to walk into something she's going to have to do later, right? And so that's just a really easy way to bring your kids and say, hey, I'm going to show my wife love this way. I'm going to show my husband love this way.
What about our kids' love languages?
Yeah, so it was funny. We asked Mariah on Sunday, how do you know Dad loves Mom? And she was like, well, he kisses you and he hugs you and he carries you around like a baby. He doesn't carry me around like a baby. I think he did one time. I fell asleep on the couch and he carried me to bed. And then she goes, or we asked her, how do you know Mom loves Dad? She's like, I don't know. But what's interesting, her love language is physical touch. Like 100%, that's the top hers. So that's how she sees love. And I don't show love that way very often, right? Like that's a hard one for me because it's the lowest one for me. Because Michael's really good at meeting that need for me. And so it's really interesting to see in our kids. It's great. So great.
The cup is full.
So it's overflowing. But what's interesting, you can even like learning the love languages about your kids, like ask them how they see you love each other, and it might show you their love language. Because Mariah doesn't care that I serve him. I'm really good at that, right? But she didn't see that because that's not how she sees love. She sees love as physical touch. So anyways, I thought that was super interesting. Another theory that's probably scientific. So another thing that you can do to put your marriage first is greet your spouse first anytime y'all come together anywhere. So when Michael gets home, he pushes away the kids until he can get to me, and I get the first attention. If we walk into the church, like we both meet up here, he comes to me first. When he shows up at the gym, he walks over to me first before he talks to anybody else. That's just a great way to show honor to your spouse, is to go find them first. Another way is like how you talk about your spouse to your kids. It's really easy to say, don't talk back to your mom, don't talk back to your dad. But what if you said, don't speak to my wife that way. Do not speak to my husband that way. And it changes the ownership there, because the kids are like, well, I can talk to my mom however I want to. But when it's like, hey, you're not going to speak to my wife that way, they're like, oh, that's somebody else I need to be worried about. So like even just changing your language and how you talk in your home is a really easy way to put your marriage first. Did you have something?
Yeah, and I think one other thing that we wanted to touch on about how to be able to put your marriage as the priority relationship, for your kids to be able to see that, and for y'all to be able to show that to one another, is a tool that we're going to dive deeper into in small group time. But the tool that we're going to talk about is called couch time. And really what couch time breaks down to is you being able to spend one-on-one time with your spouse in a conversation, and your kids being able to view that happening. And so we definitely
without interrupting.
Yeah, so we definitely spend time together. Definitely when the kids go to bed, we're able to visit, talk, and communicate about all kinds of stuff. But our kids don't see that and be able to see that relationship of us working through conflict, or of us planning something out, or of us talking about and dreaming about going on vacation, or what we're going to do this week. And so we try to spend time almost around that first greeting time when I come home, of us interacting and being able to share. So couch time is something that we are going to circle back on almost every single week as a check to be able to see, hey, are you making this the priority relationship? That's going to be a marker that we're going to look at and ask. You heard Zach and Jen talk about couch time whenever they first came up and greeted everybody. It's so important that we have worked a session for couch time in to every single class, because we want and we believe that y'all's relationship should be the priority. And so getting started with this, or this is something new, and maybe you don't get a lot of time to be able to spend and communicate with your spouse, we want to give you at least one time every single week. As soon as class is over, we will give you at least 10 minutes as soon as we break from small group to come anywhere else in this room or any of these other small group rooms for you and your spouse to have 10 minutes together. Talk about the lesson, talk about what you need to do, talk about what you need to plan to go home to, how y'all are going to attack it, putting kids to bed, whatever that needs to be. That's y'all's couch time to be able to begin putting this place in progress.
That's awesome. So before we wrap up and before Michael prays, I want to point you to a few things in your binder. On the very first page, there's like 4 QR codes. The first one, so the book that we get a lot of our information from is called Growing Kids God's Way. We used to provide the book. We don't provide it anymore because we realized that most people don't read it at all. And so we didn't feel like we needed to provide the book. But if you are a reader, the book is so good. It has so much meat in there, so much good information. So you can purchase it through that website. On Amazon, it costs too much money. There's also a digital copy that's even cheaper if you want to get that. We have a Google form for you to ask questions. So if there's a question that, hey, like, are you going to cover this? Can you cover how to talk to your kids about sex? Can you, because that's not necessarily a class that we have over the next 10 weeks. Can you cover how to deal with bedtime tantrums? I don't know, whatever it is for you, please fill that form out. We're going to do a Q&A like on our last night, and we need stuff to talk about, stuff to talk to you about.
Fill it out as many times as you want to.
Yeah,
If you
anytime
have
you
a
have a
question in class, if you have a question tomorrow, you have a question, anytime through class, you have that QR code to be able to fill it out anytime. Couch time, and you're like, man, how do we be able to deal with this thing? Fill out the questionnaire. We'd love to be able to hear what y'all are going through and dealing with, and we'd love to be able to hear support you.
And then the third one is at our Facebook page. Great, so that's where we have, if we do any family events through like our Growing Kids group, we're gonna put them on there, so please follow us on Facebook. We're actually doing a camping trip in November. Like all of the leaders will be out there, we're gonna have some fun stuff planned, teaching stuff, fun stuff with your kids, so you can book a site and come camping with us. And then the last one, Stonewater has the ability for anybody that has access to that QR code to have Right Now Media for free. And so Right Now Media is a great resource for parenting, marriage, kid videos. There's TV shows on there for your kids to watch, really good stuff. So please look at all of those. Can I have somebody bring up the small group lists, please? Great. Well, she's doing that. Michael, if you'll pray for us, and then we'll split everybody into groups. You'll have about 10 minutes to grab cake, go potty, and then meet in one of our meetings.